The ultimatum Captain Maria Santos was enjoying her third cup of coffee when the deep space sensors started screaming. The monitoring station orbiting beyond Pluto had been her home for 6 months, and in all that time, the most exciting thing she'd detected was a large asteroid. Now every alarm in the facility was going off at once. "Computer, report status," Maria commanded, sliding into her command chair. "Multiple contacts detected at Sector 779. Configuration unknown. Mass readings indicate objects larger than any known human vessel." Maria's hands flew across her control panel. What she saw on her main screen made her drop her coffee mug. Hundreds of massive ships were moving through space in perfect formation, heading directly toward Earth. Each vessel was at least 20 times larger than humanity's biggest space station. "Dear God," she whispered. "Computer, establish emergency. Communication with Earth Command, immediately." Within minutes, Maria was connected to Admiral Rebecca Torres at Earth's primary defense headquarters. "Admiral, you need to see this," Maria said, transmitting the sensor data. "We have incoming vessels of unknown origin. They're big, they're organized, and they're not responding to any of our communication attempts." Admiral Torres studied the data on her screen. "How many ships are we talking about, Captain?" "At least 400 confirmed contacts, ma'am. Possibly more behind them. They'll reach Earth's outer system in approximately 18 hours at current speed." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Every world leader was awakened with urgent calls. Military bases across Earth went to highest alert. President Elena Chen convened an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Something that had never happened in human history. Dr. James Wright was pulled from his laboratory at MIT and rushed to the Pentagon. As Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact protocols, he'd spent years wondering what first contact would look like. He'd never imagined it would be quite this intimidating. "The formation suggests military organization," Dr. Wright explained to the assembled world leaders via secure video conference. "They're not explorers or scientists. This is a fleet designed for conquest." President Chen leaned forward. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, what are our chances if they're hostile?" Dr. Wright was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, Madam President, if they wanted to destroy us, we'd probably already be dead. The fact that they're approaching slowly suggests they want something else." As if summoned by his words, every communication system on Earth suddenly activated. Television broadcasts were interrupted. Radio stations went silent, then crackled to life with a new signal: internet. Connections redirected to a single streaming feed. The alien message was being broadcast simultaneously across every communication channel humanity possessed. The face that appeared on screens worldwide was unlike anything in human nightmares. It had pale blue skin, stretched tight over sharp bones, 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows, and a mouth that seemed to contain too many teeth. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, though the voice sounded like wind blowing through a cemetery. "Greetings, inhabitants of the 3rd planet. I am Ambassador Vexthul of the Krellian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain." President Chen exchanged glances with her advisors. Integration didn't sound like partnership. Over the past millennium, the Krellian Empire has brought order to 217 worlds, the alien continued. Each species initially believed they were unique, that their world was special, that they could resist our authority. All learned otherwise. Dr. Wright was furiously taking notes. The aliens' casual mention of 200 conquered worlds sent chills through every human listening. Your species demonstrates certain primitive technologies and social structures that may prove useful to the Empire. Therefore, you are being offered the opportunity to surrender peacefully and accept our guidance toward a more civilized existence. General Patricia Stone, Earth's most decorated military strategist, leaned toward President Chen. Guidance toward civilization. That sounds like slavery with extra steps, ma'am. The alien's message continued. You have 72 of your standard hours to consider our generous offer. At the end of this period, you will broadcast your unconditional surrender and prepare to receive our landing forces. Resistance will be met with immediate planetary sterilization. The transmission showed images of other worlds, beautiful planets reduced to barren rock. Cities that had once housed millions turned to glass and ash. The message was clear. Do not mistake our patience for weakness, Ambassador Vexthul concluded. The Krellian Empire has never failed to claim a world we have chosen. Your planet will be no exception. Consider carefully. 72 hours. The transmission ended, leaving humanity staring at blank screens and contemplating extinction. President Chen was the first to break the silence. 72 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 days to decide the fate of our species. With respect, Madam President, General Stone interjected, I don't think there's much to decide. We're not surrendering. Dr. Wright looked up from his notes. General, they've conquered over 200 worlds. Their technology is obviously far beyond ours. Maybe we should consider... Consider what? General Stone stood up. Living as slaves, watching our children grow up in chains? No, Doctor, humans don't surrender. It's not in our nature. Over the next several hours, the world's leaders debated frantically. Some argued for negotiation, others pushed for immediate surrender to save lives. But as reports came in from around the globe, it became clear that humanity was choosing defiance. In New York, construction workers were building barricades. In Tokyo, engineers were designing weapons from household materials. In London, teachers were organizing evacuation plans that looked more like guerrilla warfare manuals. In every major city, ordinary people were refusing to accept defeat. Maria Santos, still monitoring the alien fleet from her deep space station, reported that more ships were arriving hourly. Admiral, I'm reading over 1,000 vessels now. Some of them are so large they have their own gravitational fields. But something else was happening that the aliens might not have expected. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth was working together. Ancient enemies were sharing military secrets. Rival corporations were combining their resources. Religious leaders from every faith were calling for unity against the common threat. Dr. Wright made a discovery that changed everything. While analyzing the alien transmission, he found something interesting. The aliens keep talking about resistance being illogical and inefficient, he explained to President Chen. Their language patterns suggest they think in very rigid, hierarchical ways. They expect us to fight like they do, with conventional military tactics, clear command structures, predictable strategies. General Stone's eyes lit up. You're saying they don't understand guerrilla warfare? I'm saying they don't understand human warfare at all, Dr. Wright replied. They've conquered worlds by overwhelming them with superior technology and firepower, but what if we don't fight them the way they expect? As the 72-hour deadline approached, President Chen prepared humanity's response. Standing in the White House briefing room, with world leaders joining via satellite link, she addressed not just the alien fleet, but every human on Earth. Ambassador Vexthul, you have given us 3 days to consider surrender. We have considered it. Our answer is no. The President's voice was steady, but her words carried the weight of 6 billion souls. You spoke of 217 conquered worlds. You may have noticed that this makes us number 218. But here's something you should understand about humans. We've been fighting impossible odds since we climbed. Down from the trees, we've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and natural disasters that would have wiped out weaker species. President Chen paused, looking directly into the camera. You see, Ambassador, you made a critical error in your assessment. You assumed we would react like the other species you've conquered. You assumed we would see your superior numbers and advanced technology and surrender out of logic and self-preservation. But you don't understand humans at all. The transmission was being broadcast on every frequency, ensuring the alien fleet would receive it clearly. We're not logical, we're not predictable, and we're certainly not easily conquered. We're the species that looked at the ocean and decided to cross it in wooden boats. We're the species that looked at the sky and decided to fly. We're the species that looked at the moon and decided to walk on it. Around the world, humans were watching their leader speak for their entire species. So here's our counteroffer, Ambassador Vexthul. Leave now. Leave our system. Leave our world alone and never come back. This is your only warning. The alien ambassador's response came within hours. His pale blue face filled screens again, but this time his expression showed something that might have been amusement. Your bravado is entertaining, but ultimately meaningless. No species has ever successfully resisted the Krellian Empire. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your fractured governments cannot coordinate effective resistance. Your short lifespans prevent long-term strategic thinking. Ambassador Vexthul's 6 eyes seemed to gleam with cruel anticipation. We have allowed 72 hours to pass as a gesture of mercy. That mercy is now exhausted. Prepare for conquest. President Chen's second broadcast was even shorter than the first. Ambassador, you still don't understand. We weren't asking for 72 hours to surrender. We were asking for 72 hours to prepare. And now we're ready. The human response, the Krellian fleet, moved into Earth's orbital space, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. From the surface, people could see them with the naked eye, hundreds of massive shapes silhouetted against the moon. Ambassador Vexthul had expected to find a defeated, terrified population ready to kneel before superior might. Instead, he found something that puzzled him greatly. Earth had gone quiet. Major cities that should have been blazing with lights were dark. Communication channels that should have been filled with panicked surrender messages were silent. The planet below looked almost empty. Dr. James Wright was no longer in his laboratory at MIT. Like millions of other humans, he had vanished into what the resistance was calling the underground. But unlike most civilians, Dr. Wright wasn't hiding. He was working. In a converted subway tunnel beneath New York City, Wright had set up a laboratory that looked like it belonged in a scrapyard. Pieces of alien technology, recovered from probe crashes over the past day, were spread across makeshift tables. Surrounding him were engineers, mechanics, and scientists who had abandoned their normal lives to solve an impossible problem. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles, Wright explained to his team. But look at this. He held up a simple crossbow bolt. When I fired this at a piece of their hull material, it went right through. Sarah Kim, a former Boeing engineer, raised her eyebrows. You're saying their advanced technology can't stop a medieval weapon? I'm saying their technology is so advanced that it doesn't recognize medieval weapons as threats, Wright replied. Their computers are programmed to defend against lasers, plasma cannons, and hypersonic missiles. A wooden arrow moving at 200 feet per second doesn't register as dangerous. Above ground, the Krellian forces were discovering other problems. General Patricia Stone had spent the past 3 days completely reorganizing Earth's defense strategy. Instead of maintaining traditional military bases and command structures, she had broken human resistance into thousands of independent cells. Captain Maria Santos was no longer alone on her deep space monitoring station. She had been joined by volunteers from every space agency on Earth, and together they had turned the station into something unprecedented, a coordination hub for the most chaotic military operation in galactic history. Cell Gamma 7, this is Orbital Command. Maria broadcast to a resistance group in Brazil. Alien patrol heading your way. Suggest scatter pattern, Charlie. Copy. Orbital Command, came the reply. Initiating Charlie scatter. These lizards are about to get a taste of Amazon guerrilla warfare. The Krellian soldiers who landed in the Amazon rainforest had conquered worlds where warfare meant organized armies clashing across open battlefields. They were not prepared for an environment where the trees themselves seemed to be shooting at them. Resistance fighters would fire a few shots, then vanish into the jungle canopy like ghosts. In urban areas, the situation was even more confusing. For the invaders, Krellian forces entering major cities found themselves in labyrinths that defied logical navigation. Construction crews had spent 3 days turning city centers into mazes. Subway tunnels had been rerouted. Buildings had been connected by hidden passages. Street signs had been changed to point in wrong directions. Lieutenant Commander Zektar of the Krellian 3rd Landing Force found himself trapped in what used to be downtown Chicago. His troops had been chasing human resistance fighters through office buildings for 6 hours. Every time they thought they had cornered the humans, their targets would disappear through walls that looked solid, but opened like hidden doors. How is this possible? Zektar demanded over his communicator. These buildings were constructed according to standard architectural principles. There should be no hidden passages. Sir, one of his soldiers replied, I think they modified their own buildings. They turned their cities into weapons. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright's discoveries were being implemented on a global scale. Factories that had been producing smartphones and automobiles were now manufacturing crossbows, catapults, and slingshots. Medieval siege weapons were being constructed alongside modern electronics. The psychological effect on the Krellian forces was devastating. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority. They had never encountered an enemy that responded to advanced weaponry with ancient tactics. Commander Thexval, leading the assault on European resistance cells, sent increasingly frustrated reports to Ambassador Vexthul. The humans are not fighting according to any recognizable military protocol. They use children's toys as weapons. They attack with musical instruments. Yesterday, one of our battle mechs was destroyed by humans throwing paint balloons at its sensors. Ambassador Vexthul studied the reports with growing confusion. In over a millennium of conquest, the Krellian Empire had never encountered anything like this. Every previous species had attempted to match Krellian technology with their own advanced weapons. The humans were doing the opposite. The breaking point came during what became known as the Festival of Resistance. President Elena Chen had made one final broadcast to both humanity and the alien fleet. Ambassador Vexthul, your forces have been on our planet for 48 hours. In that time, you've learned something important about humanity. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make conquest so expensive, so difficult, and so absolutely miserable that you'll think twice before trying this again. Around the globe, millions of humans emerged from hiding. But they weren't emerging to surrender, they were emerging to celebrate. In Paris, resistance fighters were having a street party while shooting Roman candles at Krellian aircraft. In Tokyo, civilians were flying kites equipped with cameras and small explosives, turning children's toys into reconnaissance drones and kamikaze weapons. In New York, people were dancing in the streets while throwing water balloons filled with paint at alien soldiers. The humans weren't just resisting. They were having fun while they did it. Ambassador Vexthul received a priority communication from Krellian High Command. Status report, Ambassador. When will Earth be secured? For the first time in his long career, Vexthul hesitated. The situation is more complex than anticipated, High Command. The humans are employing tactics that do not conform to standard resistance patterns. Explain. They appear to be treating our invasion as some form of entertainment. Our forces report being attacked by humans who are laughing, singing, and celebrating while they fight. Many of our soldiers are requesting psychiatric evaluation. There was a long pause from High Command. Ambassador, are you saying that a primitive species is defeating the Krellian Empire with parties? I am saying, High Command, that we may have underestimated the psychological resilience of this species. Dr. Wright's voice suddenly cut through the communication channel. The humans had hacked the Krellian communication network. Ambassador Vexthul, this is Dr. James Wright of Earth. I hope you're enjoying your stay on our planet. I wanted to share some information that might interest you. The alien's face showed surprise and anger. How are you accessing our secure communications? Oh, that's simple, Wright replied cheerfully. We asked our teenagers to hack your systems. Took them about 6 hours. Your security protocols are very advanced, but they're also very predictable. Human teenagers, on the other hand, are completely unpredictable. Wright's image appeared on Krellian screens throughout the fleet. Behind him, the makeshift laboratory bustled with activity. Here's what you need to understand about humans, Ambassador. You've conquered 217 worlds by following the same playbook. Demonstrate superior firepower, demand surrender, expect logical compliance. But humans aren't logical. We're creative, stubborn, and absolutely terrible at following instructions. Wright gestured to his team of scientists and engineers. You see, while your forces have been trying to control our cities, we've been studying your technology, and we've made some interesting discoveries. Your weapons are indeed far superior to ours. Your ships are marvels of engineering. Your soldiers are well-trained and disciplined. The alien ambassador waited for the inevitable admission of defeat. But you have one critical weakness, Wright continued. You think like a machine. Everything has to be logical, efficient, predictable. You've optimized your entire civilization for maximum effectiveness. Wright smiled, and there was something unsettling about that human expression. The problem is, Ambassador, we've spent the last 3 days turning our entire planet into the most inefficient, illogical, unpredictable battlefield in galactic history. Your advanced computers can't calculate solutions to problems that have no logical answers. Your disciplined soldiers can't fight an enemy that treats warfare like a game. Around the world, the chaos was intensifying. In Australia, resistance fighters were using boomerangs to disable Krellian drones. In Scotland, bagpipe players were gathering in groups, and their music was somehow interfering with alien communication systems. In Mexico, people were using piñatas filled with flashbang devices as improvised weapons. This ends now, Ambassador, Vexthul declared. We will demonstrate the consequences of continued resistance. The alien fleet powered up their planetary bombardment weapons, the same weapons that had reduced 217 worlds to ash and glass. Energy readings in Earth's atmosphere spiked to dangerous levels. President Chen's final message was broadcast on every frequency in every language to every corner of the galaxy. This is President Elena Chen of Earth, speaking for humanity and any other species listening. Ambassador Vexthul, you're about to make the biggest mistake in your empire's history. The president's voice was calm, but her words carried absolute conviction. You see, you can destroy our cities, our governments, our military bases. You can kill millions of us, but you cannot kill what makes us human. And what makes us human is this: we never, ever give up. Around the planet, humans stopped their chaotic resistance and stood in silent solidarity. Every species in this galaxy now knows that the mighty Krellian Empire, conquerors of 217 worlds, was fought to a standstill by humans using slingshots and party balloons. Every species knows that your perfect military was confused by teenagers with computers and construction workers with paint. The president paused, letting her words sink in. You can destroy Earth, Ambassador, But you can never again claim that resistance is futile, because somewhere in this galaxy, someone will remember that a species of crazy, stubborn humans made the great Krellian Empire look foolish. She smiled, and her expression was fierce with pride. So go ahead, push that button. Prove to the galaxy that the only way the Krellian Empire can win is by killing everyone who refuses to surrender. Show them what your civilization really means. For long minutes, the alien fleet hung in Earth's orbit, weapons charged and ready to fire. Ambassador Vexthul stared at readouts showing a planet full of humans who were singing, dancing, and refusing to be afraid. Finally, a new voice cut through the communication channels. It was older, carrying absolute authority. This is Supreme Commander Kethvar of the Krellian High Command. Ambassador Vexthul, stand down your weapons immediately. Supreme Commander, the humans continue to resist. Planetary sterilization protocols are prepared for... I said stand down, Ambassador. The High Command has reached a decision regarding Earth. There was a pause that seemed to last forever. The Krellian Empire hereby declares Earth to be unsuitable. For conquest, all forces will withdraw immediately. Across the planet, humans held their breath. Furthermore, the Supreme Commander continued, let it be recorded in galactic history that any species demonstrating similar unpredictability shall be designated as non-priority targets for future operations. As the massive alien fleet began its withdrawal from Earth's orbit, President Chen made one final broadcast. This is Earth to all listening species across the galaxy. Today, humanity proved something important. It doesn't matter how big your ships are, how advanced your weapons, or how many worlds you've conquered. If you threaten free people who refuse to surrender, you'd better be prepared for the fight of your life. Dr. Wright added his own message from the underground laboratory that had helped save the world. And remember, the universe is a big place full of species you haven't met yet. Some of them might be even crazier than humans. Choose your targets carefully. As the last Krellian ship disappeared into hyperspace, humanity began the long process of returning to normal life, but they had changed the galaxy forever. Word spread quickly through interstellar communication networks. There was a species on the third planet of an unremarkable star system that had defeated the Krellian Empire with creativity, chaos, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Maria Santos, back alone on her monitoring station, sent one final message to Earth Command. This is Deep Space Monitor 1. Alien fleet has departed the system, threat level reduced to 0. All quiet on the outer rim. She paused, then added with a smile. Earth is still weird, still wonderful, and still free. The galaxy would never be quite the same.